Welcome everyone to our study abroad podcast series. Today we have Mansi, who is studying at the University of Leeds. She is from Shimla. So, welcome Mansi to our podcast.
Hi, thank you, Vishal, for inviting me. It's a great opportunity for me as well because for me, I think if I had this kind of a video, I would have known a bit more. So I think for the juniors ahead, it would be a great information to be prepared for if you're coming to UK.
Sure. That's the whole purpose to help the juniors in whatever possible way we can. Mansi, we have few questions for you, and we'll go in a kind of a chronological order of your experience. So, the very first thing we want to know is when you made up your mind to go for this study abroad program. What was that time when you all of a sudden you realize that okay, I should now pursue this study abroad dream?
So basically, when I was doing my 12th grade, like when I was giving my boards, my family had this thought in their mind that they wanted to uh, send me for like a bachelor's outside of Shimla because I am from Shimla and there is not that much of opportunities because it's not a metropolitan city and it's not that developed as compared to like Mumbai, Delhi, or something, and even like Chandigarh, which is nearby. And so my parents were wanted me to go outside for some exposure because I have never changed any school. I have never been outside of Shimla as in general too. So we had like a career counselor and they presented this idea. Even I was a bit curious, like how will I be that much adaptable? Uh, will I be able to get into a new place and be able to compete with people with like similar background? So the career counselor was like, you shouldn't go for like out of India right now, because if you give her like that much of an exposure, then it would be like very she won't be able to handle it. So he had suggested that you should give her like an exposure step by step. So first target was to go outside of the state. So that's why went into SST, DGDSD college under Punjab University, where I did my bachelor's in economics. And after that, I knew like in 3 years, because 1.5 year was at home because of the COVID, and after that 1.5 years I was outside of my state. So it made me realize that I am very outspoken person, and I have those kind of qualities that I can adapt really well. And that's how I decided, like, okay, now is the great time to, if I do want to do my masters, I wanted to pursue it outside of the country, because I thought if I do it in India, firstly it's going to be, as compared to like masters would be 2 years, and over here it's like 1 year, although it's like an intense program for 1 year because you're doing 2 years of course in like 1 year. But it would be really good for me as a person to grow really fast and be, well, I wanted to basically check myself, like, can I when I come outside of that zone as well, would I be able to go out of the Indian education system and then go into an UK based education system? Can I adapt myself? Basically, I try to test myself a lot. So that was my main agenda when I was coming. And talking about the whole process about the university, I basically, my main motive was to go to University of Warwick, which I got like not selected, but I was in the waiting list. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. And before that, I got my uh, uh, unconditional offer from University of Leeds, and I basically applied for like five or six of the colleges, and I got into like three of them. So I guess it was majorly because I was one drawback which I had in my mind at that time as well was, in my college, if there wasn't any COVID, and during my undergrad, I would have figured out in first year, like, okay, we have these opportunity as extracurricular opportunities, and I would have been more into them in my second year or the third year. But due to like figuring it out in like my third year, and then I was like, oh, I'm now late. I can't do anything about it. So that was one drawback which I had. And I think most of the universities were like, you're academically good, but you don't have that much of extracurricular activities to show your soft skills. And this is like also one of the major comparisons that I have seen, which happens mostly in UK rather than India. So whenever they are comparing in India, if they are accepting you, they only look at your basically your academics. But when you're coming to a Western university, they also look at your not only on your analytical skills, basically you can build them over here as well, but they look into your soft skills, which basically comes from your extracurricular activities. So I think like if somebody is right now doing their bachelor's and are thinking, it's the right choice for them to start now with their extracurricular if they're not doing anything. So yeah.
Sure. So you pretty much decided that you had to come to UK only, and you didn't consider any other country as such.
Um, at that point of time, I had considered first choice was UK itself, but if I didn't get in UK, I was thinking of going to Australia, and then I was thinking of going to Canada. So it was like if I don't get into UK, I'll go to Australia, and then if I don't get over in Australia as well, I would go to Canada. But fortunately, I came into the UK.
So the five colleges, universities you applied were all UK universities, or it was a mix
Yeah,
of other?
it was just UK universities.
So when you are applying, you had in mind that if you don't get here, you will probably take a drop year or something, or like a semester break, and then apply to other countries, something like that.
No, I started very early for application process, like in January 2023, when I was giving my final exams for bachelor's. So it gave me a certain time period to think like if I don't get into any university in that time period, because if I'm applying in February, I'll get a response by April or June, because they give you conditional offers. If the only condition would be like your undergrad results for the last semester. So if I have that in hand, I would make a decision very quickly. So if I because I was trying to do it in February, so I had my results were coming when I was getting my acceptance conditional acceptance was around April and May. So it gave me a bit of a more time period. If I don't get anything by May or April, I'll get to Australia or Canada. I basically I didn't want it any gap year. I was aiming for that as well.
Sure. And you had to give some English test, GRE, TOEFL, IELTS, that you
Yeah.
needed for the application.
So I want to tell this to students because I realized it over here that please check before when you are applying that if it says IELTS, because I did my IELTS, but government of India came up with a scheme at that time, which was if you scored more than 90% or like equivalent to 90% in your CBSE, I don't know about others, but if you scored that much in your 12th grade, you are not supposed to give any IELTS. It's equivalent to what you done in uh, IELTS. So if I knew that, I wouldn't have probably given an IELTS and I would have saved that money. And I have seen people who I thought that it was like a scheme which wasn't that relevant, or it was being considered, or it hasn't been passed yet. But actually, it was there. So most of my friends who are like similar situation as me, they didn't give any IELTS because they also scored like 90%. So if you're considering to coming to the UK and over there it says that you need a band, just to be called to the university and ask them like I have this much in my CBSE English exam, like 90% above. So they can also tell you that are you supposed to give an IELTS, because apparently in University of Leeds it's not important if you have given if you have a score of 90% in your CBSE.
Sure, sure. That's a very good information for the audience. And your documentation and all, you had to get any recommendation letter also for your application?
Yeah, I had to file for my statement of purpose. I had to give my letter of recommendations. The letter of recommendations come from it can be from your university, basically, which you are studying in your bachelor's from, or it can be your school as well. But it is preferable that it's from your bachelor's university, which even I did. And also, one more thing, if you are going for a university in which you are going for a specific subject, like I did my master's in economics. So they ask specifically one of the letter of recommendations should be from the same subject you are going for right now. Other than that, it can be any other professor.
Sure, sure. And for the visa process, what was the time duration that you need and what were the steps?
So for my visa, it fortunately didn't take that long because I was well prepared with my documents. I would tell students that whenever you are filing for a visa, make it sure that whatever documents lists they are giving, you have everything over there. Check it before you leave your house. Check it when you are over there waiting for your turn. And because at the end of the day, if there is something which is not gonna match, it might give you a kind of um, a negative effect on you in your confidence level as well. Because I have seen it with people where when I was filing my visa, I didn't have any problem because I checked it a lot of times. Like, am I matching all of the criterias? But like, I met a friend, not a friend, but like an acquaintance over there who I met over there in the visa office, and she was also applying for Leeds Beckett University, and I was applying for University of Leeds. So that's how we came into communication. And then she got a rejection saying that you were supposed to show us this much amount or something like that. So you have to be very clear with all the documentations, like whatever they are saying. Please make it sure that you are matching everything.
Sure, sure, sure. That's a good point. And once you got your visa, you had to book your flight ticket and accommodation. How was that in your case?
Okay, so basically, when you don't have any issues with your visa, you'll get it in two weeks. Like I got it in my 10 days. Like the confirmation saying that your visa has been approved. So after that, when you get your airport tickets, I applied through British Airways because I didn't wanted any hassle of getting from a hop-in flight and then I go into another country and I need a visa over there, because I've heard stories saying that if you go into any European country, you need a visa uh, to be staying over there. So took a direct flight from Delhi to London. And for the accommodation, when I got my visa, I started looking for the accommodation beforehand. Like when I got my acceptance letter, because you are supposed to show that you have an accommodation over there. So I preferred, because I was coming alone, there was nobody from my side, like even from my college. I preferred to stay in a student accommodation, and I had a list of five accommodations which I could choose from, and if I apply, I could get into any, because time was not a constraint for me. As I started applying earlier, so I had a lot of options, and I could choose by myself. So I would tell students, if you are thinking of coming to the UK, try starting applying earlier so that you have time for other things which are you are supposed to do after you get your CAS letter.
Sure. And once you had your accommodation booked, you landed in London, right? So
Yeah.
from London to Leeds, how was that journey? And did you find London a bit of a maze kind of thing? Like, were you lost a bit at the airport or you were okay?
Um, Actually, for me, it wasn't that of a hustle because I have my relatives over there. So they were the ones who came to pick me up. But and they were the ones who made me come to Leeds itself. But I have traveled to London by myself. It's not that of a hustle if you are occupied with online systems. Like if you know there are buses that take you towards London, and like coming when you're coming to Leeds, it's also like people prefer, like my friends prefer to take an Uber for the first time, or not an Uber but a taxi. And you can also come from you can take a domestic flight from London to Leeds Bradford airport, which makes it easy for you to come towards Leeds University, as it's just a bus away, or I would like to say a train. You just need to take a train and then you can come over here. So that's a very good route which like my friends took. Or you can take a flight from London to Manchester, or like you can come to Leeds to London, and then London to Manchester, which also gives you a bus from there to Leeds, direct towards the University of Leeds, because they have where this is a good thing about University of Leeds, that they have a lot of international students, which they make them more experienced in how they should tackle with international students who are coming for the first time, because they have their own facilities. If you're coming towards Leeds, they say it on their side that if you're coming on Leeds Bradford or Manchester airport, we have this buses which would be coming at this time period. You can log on to our site and let us know what time we are coming, and we'll pick you up from there. So you have this as a facility as well. And even if you're coming to London, I guess there is one more facility for there as well. But I'm pretty sure about the Leeds Bradford and Manchester. They have train services as well if you don't want to take a bus or a taxi. So that's a good thing about University of Leeds as well.
And how much time did it take you from London to Leeds? Did you stay at your relatives for a while, or you directly came to Leeds after
No,
landing?
I stayed there for 2, 3 days because I wanted to get my stuff ready for living in the accommodation itself. So people who came over here directly from London to Leeds and they didn't have anything, they got their things from nearby places. I would recommend people, if they want to come over here and into the University of Leeds, they could go to Morrison's, which is like a place which for Asians itself. Like if Indian people want to get things from like utensils and everything else, you can get over there at a pretty cheaper rate as compared to other stores. So I would recommend them you do using that, because I was fortunate enough to get it over there with my relatives, but I had friends who did that.
Sure, sure. And once you reached your accommodation, and there are few things, India versus UK, like cooking, cleaning, washing, you have to do by yourself. So were you mentally prepared for it, or even if you're mentally prepared for it, how was that transition for you?
I would say I kept it in my mind since January that if I'm moving out, I have to start cooking by myself. And if you're living in a hostel before that, because I was living over there, I didn't have to cook because I had a mess, but I had to wash my clothes by myself, and I had to clean my room by myself, and I was living with like two other roommates. So I was majorly compatible to do all of those things other than the cooking part, which I made myself realize that okay, you are well equipped with cleaning and you are well equipped with washing your own things, but you have to be well equipped with cooking and washing your dishes, because cooking is not that much of a hassle, but washing dishes is much more of a hassle. So I guess if you're coming to the UK, you have to be sure that if you are gonna cook, you have to clean the dishes later as well. So I made my mind that if I am gonna cook, I have to clean by side, so that it doesn't come into my mind again and again that I have to clean my utensils. So I would also recommend that to students, that whenever you're cooking, clean it when you're done with eating, or like before eating.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Get used to cooking and cleaning before coming, and
Yeah.
so that you don't have any shocks.
Yeah.
So after like settling for, let's say, few days in your accommodation, you probably would have your first class and things like that, first week, first month, and you would have noticed some differences in the way people are taught, let's say your own college in Punjab versus Leeds. What were the few things that shocked you or surprised you?
Actually, being from a doing a bachelor's in India and doing a master's in UK, you see a big transition. Because when I did my bachelor's in economics under Punjab University, I think the main problem we faced was getting a knowledge which was not, if I apply it in practically, it wouldn't be applicable anymore. Coming over here, I saw that University of Leeds basically they are mostly research driven. So you are going to study things which are relevant right now. And for my own shock, I would say that when I was studying economics back home, it was I had students who were saying that I don't like maths, that's why I took economics. Over here, if you say you are a master's, you are studying masters in economics, they will directly correlate that with, oh, you are good in maths. So that was a major thing. Firstly, when I didn't join my classes, there were like 2 weeks which they gave for you to settle in down, go doing your bank accounts, doing your networking with students as itself, because they had like global cafes where you can meet people from around the whole world, the students from bachelor's, master's, PhD, whoever you see over there, you meet people over there. And it gives you a cultural shock as in general as well, because they knew that international students would face cultural shocks. So they had an a thing real an event for us where they showed us how cultural shocks happen in the UK, basically in University of Leeds, doing your assignments, doing your assessments, doing your dissertation time, how you manage things. So they basically showed it through a skit. So in my first 2 weeks, I was mentally prepared by looking at those things as well, that I will go through this stuff. They show you a whole journey. So you of a student, so you are mentally prepared that I will also go through this period. So that's also a nice thing about University of Leeds, that they basically show you a whole cycle, that how people mentally coming over here mentally drain themselves. Because for me, it was basically, I even if I show you my grades right now, you will be like, you can see the advancement going on. Because first 2 3 subjects in my first semester, I was not knowing what am I doing, where am I, what has been going on in my life. I thought I wouldn't be doing any maths, but now I am doing maths, which I was reluctant to do in my 11th and 12th. Now I had to face that. And I can't do anything about it because that's the basics for my economics level. So I was stuck. That what should I do? In December, I was totally stuck. That am I doing the right thing? Doing my because I had my exams in January, and am I doing the right thing, that I don't know how to do maths, I don't know how do I give reasonings to other things. But I was basically stuck. But then I realized that, look, you have taken opportunity for your own self. You have to start somewhere. You can't just shove it off and say, I can't do this. You have come over here to face your difficulties, and I faced it. I scored because I never studied econometrics back home, which is like, if which I realized over here in university, that if you are not doing econometrics, you're not gonna. It's like the basics for economics, which we were not told in our Punjab PU, under our PU system. Over here, I realized that, and I was scared. I don't know what to do. This is like a very new subject to me. Others were not, but they had maths, which was very new to me. And I wasn't, I was facing a lot of problems with it. But I realized, like, I have to give my exam, I have to score. If I don't, I will fail, which I don't want to happen. So I did pass my exams with good grades. I got a distinction, but because I faced my difficulties, I would say that the level of motivation you require at that time, because once you come to into the UK, you don't know, your parents don't know what you're facing. They will just say you have to face it. They don't know what you're going through. Your friends in India don't know what you're going through. Only the people around you in the in the university, they will know it, right? So I think that's what I did when I used to go to the library. I used to talk to my peers, my fellow students, and I came to know that they're also facing the similar problems, and they have more problems. If I talk about Chinese students, they don't know that much level of English, that how do I write my answers, so they're basically cramming it. And over here, cramming never works. If it works in India, it never works in the UK. You have to understand the concept, and then only you can write. So that's also one of the things that you go through. And I have realized it over here as well, that there are a lot of things which happen. And once you get along with it, once you realize that I have to face it, then you can score like good grades as well, because once you land in the UK, you're, whatever people say, that you have your family, you have your friends, but they're all over in India, they don't know what you are going through. So you are all alone by yourself in the UK. So when you see around students, you have to just talk to them, because when you're not talking to them, it feels like you are the only one who is facing this problem. Because I realized it by myself that in Masters of Sciences in Economics, people who are similar age to my age as mine are like 3 or 2, including me, and others are basically 25, 26 plus. And you are just like, they have work experience, they have more knowledge than you, they have more abilities than as compared to you. So you start to think that you are below them, you can't excel this. But I want to tell this to students: once you come into the UK and you are in the university doing the same masters as them, you probably have the same level of capabilities as them. The only thing is you have to face it. If you're not, then you might fail. But if you are, probably you would land up like me in a distinction. I don't know. So yeah, I would like to also tell this, like, you face problems once you're going through the process in the UK, coming to into the UK, but you also face problems after that. So it's not just ending over there, it's just the starting, and it's the good beginning.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I think the first semesters usually take it's like for settlement only, I think, in general
Yeah,
anyway. And
exactly.
how was your very first winter that you faced there, Shimla versus Leeds?
I would say Shimla is much more worse than this, because there was just one snowfall. And I would like to acknowledge the fact that uh, the weather in India at the time of summer, or sorry, at the time of winter, you see blue sky. If you're coming to Leeds, be prepared. You're gonna see gray skies, no sun, and cloudy weather most of the time after August, or probably if you're lucky after September. And you will never see a blue sky until summer, which is around June or July. Even like this time, we saw rains in June. So we just had 1 month of summer, which was in July, when we saw a blue sky. After that, still now it's a gray cloud outside. So it's
So there
just
is, yeah, yeah, sure. So there is one more difference that we have in, let's say, UK versus India is there is nothing like a placement cell, like a placement department in colleges. So, you are pretty much on your own job hunting, internship hunting. How did you cope up with this challenge?
I would like to say even I was in that shell, that probably going through placement cells in India is a good thing, but over here I think they give more priority to your soft skills, and to excel those will give you an opportunity to even like work in an internship or a placement. I would also like to include that if you have career fairs, try to make an impression on them, that you know and you have interest in those companies by looking into what they are looking for and what you are looking for in their company. Because if I knew that in September, when I had my first career fair, I would have been in a much nicer position as I'm in right now, because I didn't know it. That I have to make up impression in front of them. I have to mail them constantly, or I would have to over there itself, I would have to like make them realize that I am eager to work in your organization. If I knew at that time, I would have been well prepared for careers fair, but I wasn't. But now I'm thinking, when I'm going to have it in this September, when I'm not a part of it, but I can come to University of Leeds as a graduate process alumni. I would love to work, ask, make this impression that, and be myself. Being myself. I would do a lot of research under those companies in which I am interested. I would look up to the roles they are looking for, and I would like to make an impression that I am capable of that role. Although, mostly when you are in Leeds, as in the UK itself, you face a problem which I'm facing right now, which is, if you don't have work experience, you won't land a job, or even like even in internships, this is happening right now. And for graduate roles, earlier it was that when I was in doing my September careers fair, they were like, we don't know your grades right now. So that was also an issue, that until or unless they know you're capable of facing these issues, either by your grades. Mm, that could happen like this year, when I am done with my exams, done with my dissertation, I have my results in my hand, I can show like, look, I am. So that's also an issue which you face, that if you don't have any work experience, you won't get a job. If you want a job, you don't have have experience. Even like, I have seen people who have experience for like 3 4 years, they are also applying for jobs and they are not getting it. I don't know what is the situation is happening. The job market is very bad over here. But there is one thing which my professors also tell me: apply how much ever you can. If you apply for 1,000 jobs, maybe you'll get called into three. And then if you get a call, try to make an impression for the interviews. Uh, if you get an interview, try to make yourself a capable person to get the job, even if you don't have an experience. Because at the end of the day, work experience is something you get in corporate lives. But if you don't have a corporate life, you also tend to get experience from your extracurricular activities. Like, even for myself, I did, like, over here in the University of Leeds, I was a part of a conference in economic financial services, which was a conference run by University of Leeds, where a lot of people outside of university in the economics background came, and they were talking about sustainable finance, and I was one of the organization in the organization team. So it it also like helps you over here in extracurricular activities. Again, I would say the soft skills work over here. So those soft skills also give you an experience. So it's not just the work experience you see in corporate life, it's also the experience you gain from other activities. So I think when you're giving an interview, now that I have realized it, that you have to give, you have to say that, although I don't have like a corporate experience, but I have these skills which I have gained from my extracurricular activities. So I would tell people, like, if you don't have work experience, still you can get into the jobs, but it's a very tough market. You have to be very well prepared that you're going to face rejections. It's not just you who's facing those rejections. It's a lot of people. So you have to show something which others don't, and that's your sweet spot. So try to find it earlier, as soon possible.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. That's a good advice. Start as early as possible, possibly, as soon as you join. You start
Yeah.
looking for the job for next year maybe.
Yeah.
So you are already doing you are doing some part-time job as you mentioned in our LinkedIn profile. Could you tell us a bit about that job?
Okay. So basically, my part-time job is mostly about, I would say it's a bit of a irony that I motivate people who are from 11 to 16 years of age for considering maths as a uh, career option for future. But I would also like to add that when you start understanding maths, you start liking it, because that's what happened with me as well. Over here, I started to put effort in understanding it rather than just like, how do I remember the formulas? You don't have to remember those formulas, you just need to get the logic behind it. So I would, as an organization, we work for making people realize that maths is not just for the boys. However, it is said that maths, you whenever you say that math, when you ever you think about maths, you always think about some guy in finance. But if you look into the other realm, even girls are interested in it. So we have an part of this organization as Match for Girls, which basically we have seen stats that you over here in the United Kingdom, the girls, after the age when they decide for their subjects, they don't choose maths, maybe because of the confidence level, or it can be that they're not getting good results or they're not liking it. So, or even if they like it, maybe it's the opportunity or the level of understanding that they require, which you might not get. And you think, I don't want a career in it. So over in our organization, which the part I am for is mentoring people at the school level, like 11 to 16, where they're doing their GCSEs and A levels. um, we tell them that, look, maths is not that hard. Even I faced it. Everybody else who was with me at that time, when I was a student ambassador, but we had other people who are actuarists, who are data scientists, who are professors in statistics. They didn't score that good in the A levels or GCSEs, but they are still working in this statistical field or like a maths based field, because they were interested in it. So numbers is not what you're looking for, because I think most of the people, they rely, even like I, for example, I would also include myself in this, that I also think like my grades tell like what I am capable of, but it's the level of interest you have in other subjects. Maybe you don't score in them, but maybe you like it also. So why not get a career in it? So I would say that's what we do in our uh, organization. That also not in just for maths, but there are other careers like robotics. We have a lot of people in data science. We have a lot of people in robotics. We have a lot of people in other level of sciences, where it's like basically promoting STEM careers, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths. And also we promote sustainability, because it's a big problem which we are facing right now, and we will be facing if we don't if we don't control it by 2030, we're going to face it a lot after that. So we also promote sustainability, and that's also one of my interests. That's why I went for the Germany program in sustainability finance. And I learned a lot over there about this topic, and also about digital euro, which is basically the major running, I would say, subjects these days. It's digital currency and sustainability. So we, University of Leeds, of course, they told they aim for you for your advancement in future. So that's why when you have an opportunity to go for a program, a study tour, they aim for something which you can apply in your future careers. So I would also like to add that point. And yeah, that's what we also do in our organization. We aim for STEM careers, and we tell people that you can also do it if we can.
Sure, sure, sure. That's a good advice. And what's your future goal like for like next few years? You have some set goals to achieve?
My main goal is to become an economist, of course, but for that I require a lot of experience. And for that, I am right now looking for a research assistant job or a research associate job, which I hopefully get one. And I am also thinking of doing a PhD because my main aim is what I have realized over here, that I want to work in development economics, which is basically for developing economies. And my dissertation is also related to it. And I want people to understand that if the developing economies would become developed, then only the developed countries would become more renowned, because if the developing countries become our developed ones, they can also head up the developed countries which don't have that much of resources as compared to the developing ones, to grow more. And that's my major goal as an economist as well, that I would love to work in policy making, and I would love to see a future where I can say that I also helped a bit. So yeah.
Sure, sure. That's good. We wish you all the best for that. So coming to the very last question, do you have any additional tip, like a pro tip, anything that you would like to add for the juniors?
Mm, I would say that everything comes down to your confidence. Even if you talk about networking, if you talk about communication, if you talk about looking for a job, if you talk about getting into career fairs, even when you're stepping out of your comfort level, you need confidence, and you have to believe in yourself that you can do it. And it's very hard, because when you come in a country where you don't know anything about it, it's hard for you to get the confidence level which you had in India, saying that I was one of the students who was looked upon, that okay, this is the person I want to be like. And when you are coming to a country where you don't know anything, and you have people who have a caliber above you or similar to you, which you don't see that they are similar to you, but you just see it's more than you, you feel that I am not capable of staying over here. But I was at that phase when I was over here in December, because I wasn't getting anything, not any part-time job, not getting even my subjects which I was very good at in undergrad. I would say, if I didn't gather up myself and said that, look, if others are doing it, you can also do it, I would say that I wouldn't even have gotten a merit in my subject. And people I see now, when we have our, even we are at the level of understanding, now I understand, when I was looking at those people, as I would love to become them once. Now when I talk to those people, while we are doing a dissertation, I realize that they although they had like a different education system, like coming from a Middle Eastern country, coming from a Chinese economy, coming from Vietnamese, coming from Russian, they had other type of education levels. They worked as corporate analysts, they worked as financial analysts, they worked in central banks of their respective countries. They are still here with you. You are competing with them. So you have to think it, probably there is something in you which the university saw, and they have kept you in a position that at this young age you are able to compare yourself, or like compete yourself with people at this high level. So keep your confidence high, because I realized it late and I don't want others to realize it later on. So don't lose confidence.
Yeah, yeah. Like I always say, life is a game of confidence.
Exactly.
So thank you, Mansi, for your time and sharing your valuable knowledge and insights to our audience. We hope somebody will have their confusion sorted out by this podcast series, and probably you are going to get some connection request on LinkedIn and all, because we'll post this later. So
Sure.
take care and all the best for your future.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.